U.S.-China Economic and Security Review Commission published a long report to track and anticipate threats from China. The report has key findings of China's threat to the international world order that has Western value at its core. The analysis of the report looked at areas including military capabilities, trade relations, public health, COVID-19 related issues, as well as Taiwan and Hong Kong. The report also criticized China's aggressive policies against Uyghurs by quoting Xi Jinping's words, "absolute no mercy" towards millions of incarcerated Uyghurs and other Turkic Muslims. The report makes 19 recommendations, including urging the U.S. Congress consider enacting legislations to make the de facto U.S. ambassador in Taiwan a presidential nomination subject to the advice and the consent of the Senate. However, did not include any further recommendation for the situation of Uyghurs and other Turkic Muslims in East Turkestan. Thus far, United States policy of this region is limited with moral condemnation and targeted financial pressure against China's forced labor. China's espionage activity become growing threat to U.S. national economic security. Assistant Attorney General for National Security of the United States spoke about how to combat China's espionage activity at an online event organized by CSIS this Tuesday. He said 80% of the economic espionage cases the U.S. national security received were involved by the Chinese government, including intellectual property stealing. In fact, China's espionage activity not only limited with U.S. but also within every other country that China can put its influence. Last week, we talked about how Uyghurs around the world are forced to work as informants for the Chinese government. However, there are no working strategy against these cases yet, as most of these Uyghurs who were forced to work for China are not willing to report the cases. This Friday, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo released a statement about imposing visa restrictions on People's Republic of China and the Chinese Communist Party officials, or individuals active in China's United Front Work Department activities, who have engaged in the use or threat of physical violence, theft, and the release of private information, espionage, sabotage, or malicious interference in domestic political affairs, academic freedom, personal privacy, or business activities. President of East Turkestan Information Center Ruqya Turdosh said other countries should follow U.S. and impose visa restrictions for Chinese officials, students who have connection with PLA and United Front work. NATO is turning its focus from Russia to China to adapt to changing global realities. That is one of the major recommendations of new report published by NATO, titled NATO 2030, United for a New Era. Longer term, China is increasingly likely to project military power globally, including potentially in the Euro-Atlantic area, the report said. If allies are threatened by China, NATO must be able to demonstrate its abilities to be an effective actor to provide protection. The report suggests that the coalition remain open to discussing peaceful coexistence with Russia while staying united to respond to hostile moves. Does this shift have any geostrategic impact on China's colonized region East Turkestan? Obviously, if NATO focuses more on China, it will lessen Russia's dependency on China, and it will affect the geopolitical future of East Turkestan, said many Uyghurs. This is not an unreasonable analysis, since their political destiny was the victim of Russia and China's friendship for many decades. Nicat Turgun from Uyghur Research Institute said it is not surprising that NATO will focus on China more in coming years.
It is well expected that NATO will include China in the report because China's power and global reach pose acute challenge to open and democratic society. For most NATO member states, China is not only an economic competitor and a significant trade partner, it also can be understood as a systemic rival. I suppose that NATO will focus more on China in coming years because China is expanding its military reach into some regions where there is a NATO presence. And what is more concerning is that it's deepening defense ties with Russia, and China has a continuous colonial presence in East Turkestan, Tibet, and has a great ambition to take over Taiwan. In addition, China's effort to be economic leader will definitely pose greater security threat to NATO.
On December 2, 2020, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security announced that U.S. Customs and Border Protection will begin detaining shipments of cotton-containing products from China, based on the concern that those products could contain cotton produced by the Bingtuan, or so-called Xinjiang production, and the construction corps with forced or prison labor. A joint advisory issued on July 1, 2020 by the U.S. Department of State, the U.S. Department of the Treasury, the U.S. Department of Commerce, and the U.S. Department of Homeland Security indicated that the U.S. plans to use all available tools to ensure U.S. businesses have no commercial or supply chain ties to forced Uyghur labor, according to U.S. State Department Supply Chain Business Advisory Statement. In July 2020, the Office of Foreign Asset Control imposed sanctions on the Bingtuan for involvement with alleged human rights abuses. The Bingtuan is a paramilitary entity with a significant role in running the local economy, including cotton production, administration, social services, and boasts an ownership interest in as many as 800,000 other entities. Bingtuan was designated for conducting military operation against the people of East Turkestan together with Chinese Standard Army and the Armed Police Forces. President of East Turkestan Information Center Ruqya Turdoy thinks economic sanction alone cannot help.
On behalf of Uyghurs, I am very thankful U.S. government detaining shipment of cotton products from China produced by Bingtuan with Uyghur forced labor or Uyghur slave labor. But I think economic sanction is not enough. It may damage Bingtuan's economic power, but it cannot stop China's genocide against the Uyghurs, because Uyghur genocide is closely related with China's New Silk Road project and China's expansion to the world through the land. If the U.S. and its allies want to stop genocide and do not want to allow this world going to be destroyed under autocratic Chinese empire soon, there should be some serious other actions taken that can hold the Chinese Communist Party accountable.